Hi and welcome back to my channel. Today I have another jelly printing session for you, and it's not very organized this time, but I hope you find it inspiring. I wanted to make some more heavyweight prints to use as a base layer, for example for tags or artist trading cards or for greeting cards or for a folder, for example, or a little mini journal. I'm using, I think, about a 200 GSM usual printer paper for printing. Might be 180, I don't have it in mind. And I wanted to have some prints that are not all the same color and pattern. I wanted to have some more variation on the prints, so I try out some different things. The stamp I'm using here is one of the brand new stamps that will be released on January 6th. I will, of course, send out a newsletter. You will find the subscription form on our shop page and also on the blog. And we will have, I think, a little sale with the new stamps, of course. The colors I've been using here, I think it's some leftover white I had from a previous project, and I'm using the Payne's gray. And this is the stamp set where the stamp is from. In some areas on my Gelli Plate there is a lot of paint, and I want to get rid of that, so I'm using a paper and just print a little part of that pattern I have on the plate to that paper. And with this technique I can make a really nice kind of patchwork paper. I will show you all the prints I'm doing at the end of the video so you can see them all again, because sometimes there is not much time because the paint is drying and I try to get the prints done. Usually with this situation you can let dry the whole layer completely before you add another layer to pull everything off your plate. I don't have the patience to wait until everything is completely dry, so I usually take some time to organize my stuff around, and then the paint is a little bit dry and I can add a final layer all over the pattern to make my print. I placed a little helper plate to the right side where I can ink up my brayer and mix some colors if I need. I will also use the smaller plate for printing, but just to clean it off. I already have a bunch of jelly printing videos on my channel, and I will link up the playlist in the video description so you can check them all out. I think that print turned out really interesting. I really like the grungy texture and I love the Payne's gray together with the white spots and the green. What I also really like is if I have some leftover fragments of paint on the plate, because that gives me more grungy texture the next time I pull a print. Here I'm just transferring a little bit of that green from the small plate to the big one, just to get more grunginess to the big plate. If you're using stamps with acrylic paint, I recommend storing them while you're printing on a wet wipe upside down so the paint cannot dry on your stamp. And if you're done with stamping, just wash them in the sink with some water and maybe a brush. The color I'm mixing here is Meadow Red from Schminke with some white paint. I'm using the white paint from Amsterdam. These both brands are my favorites. The Schminke Academy and also the Schminke Prime Macryl, but it's really expensive. And also the Amsterdam paints, and the paint spray is from Le Franc et Bourgeois. I can't really pronounce it right. I think it's a French brand. And the vinyl paints I have are from them, and I bought this acrylic paint, and it's a very fabulous color and paint, so I think I will buy more of their colors in the future. I don't want to cover up the whole Gelli Plate with the same color, so I just added a little bit of that mixture, and I now stamp that image randomly on the plate. My brayer is dirty and it needs to be cleaned, and I will use these prints I've started with, where I've just added a little area of that paint spray and just roll my brayer to clean it. I will immediately show you, and I also will clean my little helper plate on one of these papers. Here you can see the area where I've brayered and the little print I made with the smaller plate. Recently, I'm doing a lot of more neutral prints because I have a lot of colorful prints already here. And I recognize that I always miss something neutral to combine them with. And also to combine other bright and colorful stuff with. So now I try to make more kind of neutral or muted prints. It's a bit hard for me sometimes because I love bright and happy colors, but to make them pop you need something neutral against it. And I really love this one. I think it's awesome. It's so grungy and I think it's super interesting. For the next print, I'm using a stamp from the Pencil Marks number 6, and I use it together with Payne's Gray in the beginning. The Gelli Plate, by the way, has a size that is a little bit bigger than A4. I bought that one to make full A4 prints. That is pretty handy, I feel, because you can use these A4 sheets of paper to fold little mini albums, and yeah, it's great to have no white border around. And again, I just print a little area where I have a lot of paint to this patchworky paper. And of course, I try to match white areas and not cover up the prints I've done previously on this paper. If I have too much paint, like here with the paint spray, I just clean the brayer on an old book paper, for example, and this also is great for collages. For the next layer, I'm mixing white with paints, not with paints gray, with sap green from Schminke. That's one of my favorite greens, but I added way too much paint to that little jelly plate on the right side, and I have way too much. So I just tried to ink up my brayer in the corner of the plate. This time I wanted to make two prints from one layer of paint. So the first one, the first paper, I just put down quickly to not pull every single piece of paint off the plate. And the second one, I brayer on top of it to get all that is left on the plate to my paper. And this is called a ghost print, which often comes out really interesting. Same here. I think it has a really interesting texture. I will add later a little bit of paint, I think either with the brayer or with the jelly plate. And I had so much of this green mixture. I'm just brayering some of it to these papers that have a lot of white space left. I'm doing the same here. I wanted to print two papers and I just lay the first one onto the plate quickly, and for the second I am adding a little bit more texture with some stamping. And here I've mixed some turquoise green with white to get it more pastel-y. Here I'm using one of my favorite stamps for a jelly background. It's that grid stamp from the Mixed Media Marks #1. And I think it makes a great jelly prints because it's a very neutral. Not sure what I'm doing. It's a very neutral pattern, I would say. I'm stamping a bit of it to this paper you just saw in front of the camera. I'm a little bit out of focus here, but I will soon be back. The camera does this automatically. And here I'm just pulling the paint from that small plate to one of these patchwork sheets. This print is not my favorite, but I think it has some really interesting texture on it with the leftover fragments and the grid. And here I tried again to leave some of the paint on the plate to pull a second print. On this print I wanted to add some more pattern with a second stamp to make it a bit more interesting, and I'm using these tiny circles from either the Pencil Marks 1 or 2. I never can remember in which set this stamp is. And I'm using a yellow ochre or gold ochre color for this. And I'm combining it with the turquoise green. I believe this is the last print I'm doing today. I will flip through all the prints at the end of this video, and I think I have 2 prints in them that are not from this session. Well, they are from the session, but I recorded them after I recorded this video for my Instagram reels, so you will find these 2 over on my Instagram page. Finally, I'm just cleaning off my small plate on the right side and add some more color to one of the ghost prints. And here you can see all the finished prints. Yes, I hope you enjoyed this video and you are inspired to start your own jelly printing session, and maybe you got your first jelly plate for Christmas, who knows. I wish you a wonderful evening tonight and a happy new year, and I hope we will see us in January. Bye.